Welcome to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I'm your host, Shade Curry, and I believe every divorced woman deserves a romantic relationship where she feels safe, loved, and cherished. You can create the most amazing life after divorce, and I will teach you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dating After Divorce podcast. And I have here with me a very special guest, my former client, Pamela Nichols. And she is a dear friend. She is an author of 3 books and in the middle of writing another one. She's a writing coach and a coach for inner healing. She runs the Inner Healing Academy. Welcome, Pam, to the podcast.
Thank you so much. How are you?
I am well. Could you tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself, your background, and the work that you do?
Sure. Pamela Nichols, as she said, I am the author of a 5-book Christian fiction series, and 3 books have been written and published, and I'm writing on the 4th. I developed the Inner Healing Academy based on some things that was revealed to me on my healing journey, and those things show up in the book as well. So I do that. And I also coach other writers. I was married for 21 years, ended my marriage in the 21st year, and I have been divorced for 3.5 years. Single.
Yes.
Happily single right now.
Happily single right now.
Waiting for that to change though.
Yeah. So so when you came, when you came and we started working together, it was kind of like this, we had everything kind of in place. We were like, okay, should we work on dating? And when we sort of started and then realized, oh, well, there's all this back work that needed to be done.
Yes.
And so we ended up just focusing more on healing and recovering and then getting started dating again.
Exactly. And what I was thrilled to find, it surprised me actually, and I didn't realize until I looked back, some of the stuff that I learned in the healing, getting ready for dating with a dating coach actually helped me in the rest of my life. It's not compartmentalized.
Yes.
That was thrilling to find that out.
I know. Yeah. And I wanted to bring you on, you're not necessarily partnered again, but you've had so much success from the healing work that you did.
Yes, I did. Connected with a dating coach, realized almost immediately, like, oh, you're not ready for this. You got some work to do. However, once I went inward, and you were a very big part of that, and started doing my inner work, things took off in another part of my life, which is my entrepreneurship and my business. And it amazed me how those lessons, and it wasn't anything that I was doing, I was actually being. So instead of trying and working, I went inside, started getting healing, and I got into alignment. Doors started opening. I mean, the last 6 months of my life has been insane. Things I've been wanting to see happen has happened.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I've been so excited watching your success, just watching you put your work out there. But tell us, and I don't know if we want to go all the way back to childhood, because I know your childhood experiences had a lot to do with what you experienced later. Like, where do we want to start? Do we want to start with the marriage? Do we want to start with childhood?
Let's start with the marriage. Let's specifically start, if you don't mind, when I came to you, because that's when everything started. I came to you because I had a relationship trauma the end of 2021?
End of 2020. We started working early 2021.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I had a relationship trauma that I thought was just that relationship. And then I realized, no. This feeling, because the feeling was so big, I knew instinctively that it went back to my childhood. So I started doing some inner child healing. And then from there, going backwards, I came up.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about the relationship. Let's talk about the starting point. What happened with that relationship?
I actually ended a relationship because I could tell straight away that it was not going to work. And then he moved on. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, because he wasn't and you had already broken up with him
Yes.
when we started working together. But we really looked at it because we were like, okay, this is highlighting all your relationship patterns. So this man was not a match for you.
Not.
In any way.
No.
And he was, and I don't know if it's okay with you, he was an alcoholic, I believe, or you found out he was an alcoholic, wasn't financially where he appeared to be when you first met him. Like a lot was revealed to you very early in the relationship. You broke it off, but then your brain wouldn't leave you alone.
Our brains are hardwired when we are suffering from trauma, and they just kick back to what they're accustomed to. I can now see that a rejection wound that originally happened with my parents in my childhood got reignited, and then I could see it in every other relationship. But for some reason, for some time, I don't know why, but I got it with this one. And I said, oh my gosh, because it was the right decision.
Yeah.
It was the right decision. And
you had already made the right decision, but what were you experiencing? Like
I was experiencing feeling rejected, feeling betrayed, feeling no one wanted me, hearing some of the voices and some of the things that were said to me in my childhood by people who should not have said those things to me, who should not have felt that way about me. And I felt it with this, and I wanted to, I couldn't give myself credit because I broke it off almost immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't last weeks. I think it was 2.5 weeks, if that long. And I was fine. I moved on. But then I literally was like, oh my gosh. But then I started doing my work. You recommended and sent me this awesome book about what I was going through, which is Complex PTSD.
Complex PTSD by Pete Walker.
Pete Walker's book. Oh,
such a good book.
I was reading that book. I was like, Pete, you know me.
Because you had all of the symptoms. You were triggered. You had high anxiety. Because I think he was in your neighborhood and you would see him and just like have a panic attack.
Meltdown.
And you were like, but I don't even want this guy.
And Shirley was so tired of me. I know you were, but I was like,
I was not tired of you.
Well, I understand. I could not understand what my body was doing. But then I realized my body has been doing this. My mind has been doing this for decades, for years. And for whatever reason, it was a perfect storm, and I was able to draw the lines. And so I backed up. We stopped the relationship coaching. We stopped that part, and just started working on that.
Yeah.
And just
so what did that work look like for you? Like, and I know you were all about the work. You were like all in with doing the work, with the exercises. You were doing work that I wasn't. We would come to the session and I'd be like, so how did you do with this? You'd be like, I did this, I prayed. Like you were doing all the work that showed up for you. You were doing it. But that's sometimes what it looks like.
That's what it looks like. And it's not glamorous. And some of the work I remember crying when we were talking about. It is painful. It is hard, but it is so necessary. It is so necessary. And then, as you know, some other things started, happening. Other patterns, as you start getting whole and getting healed, people who benefited from your brokenness.
Yes.
Then you see another side of them. And sometimes it's people that are close to you. So it almost makes you want to just back up, but you've got to go through it.
Yeah. And so we delved into your childhood. We looked at all the patterns, and I know a lot happened in your childhood, and there were just so many not unresolved patterns, but we were able to draw parallels between how your nervous system was responding in the present, like the fear, the panic, the anxiety, the fear of rejection.
The emotional flashbacks.
And
Yes.
everything you had experienced
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
when you, and what's amazing is that, like, and I know trauma is not a comfortable conversation, it's not cute.
It's not.
It kills the buzz at a dinner party when you mention trauma.
Let's talk about my trauma.
Right? But there's no way around it. There's no way around talking about some of this stuff and seeing, oh, this is why I'm thinking this way, and now I can change it.
Right.
Really owning that story and doing whatever the work looks. For some people, the work looks like forgiveness. For some people, the work looks like really setting boundaries. For some people, but for everyone who does this kind of inner work, it requires just sitting with that discomfort. Like, this happened, and this is why I feel the way I feel.
The sit with is difficult because all of the roadblocks and strongholds we built up, we did that because we did not want to experience those feelings. I did not want to feel that feeling when I could hear my mother's voice in my head, or my father's voice, or their abuse, or other people's abuse and other people's judgment. So, we do things and we think things. Another thing that has come out of the healing and all that is I have started therapy, because I just realized, like I said, my life, as I'm now getting aligned, it is hard for me to grab my brain back. I can feel, I can feel a thought come on that is negative, that I know is not true, that I don't want to believe, but I've had all these years of believing it.
Yeah.
So this season of my healing involves a trauma-informed therapist, and she is excellent.
Yes.
She is excellent.
Yeah. And when those things happen, I don't remember who I was talking to just a few days ago. We were talking about arguing. You got to investigating the thought. Like, you're like, the thought is there, investigating, like, what's happening here. Yes. And knowing that your brain, especially once you know your history and you see, you're like, oh, my brain is just going to keep bringing up these thoughts. Right. And then just taking a step and putting that distance. Oh, it's a thought. It's not me. It's not real.
I remember you had to keep telling me that I get to reframe this. I get to decide what is going on. And when you told me that the first time, I was like, wait a minute. So just because my brain is telling me this, or someone else says this, that's not how it is.
Doesn't make it true.
It took me forever to get that. Yeah. And now it's almost instinctual. The thought will come up. I'm like, wait a minute. That's not what that is.
Yes.
And now that I am challenging it, I notice how often it does happen.
Yes. And that awareness is gold. The awareness is half of the solution, because once you see it, you're like, and I remember when I did this work, like, way back, I just felt like whatever I was feeling and whatever I was thinking was true.
It was valid, right?
It was valid. That was what I was experiencing. There was no separation between me and my thoughts. And so when I started seeing the difference between me and my thoughts, like, oh, it's just a thought. It's just something that I'm thinking in my brain. It has no reality on the world outside.
Exactly.
I was like, wait.
It is what I make it.
Yeah.
It is what I make it. That is so freeing right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me kind of like how in your business, because I know you started your business when we started working together. That's when you started your business, because you were like, okay, well, I'm going to make my business the container for the work that I'm doing and the healing work, instead of dating, because there were just way too many triggers with the dating. How was the old thinking impacting your ability to do the things you wanted to do? You had already written 2 books at the time?
Yes, I was writing on my 3rd. When we got together, I finished that one, and my editor's waiting for my 4th. Bless her heart.
So, but you hadn't started. You wanted to start coaching people. You hadn't started at the time. How was the old thinking, the triggers, the PTSD? How was that impacting your ability to get started?
Well, let me say this. Deep down inside, I know this is what I'm supposed to do, because I get excited. And when you were talking about, I can do that. I can do that. But
Because I just believe in all my clients. I'm like, literally, every client of mine can do whatever they need to do.
Yeah, I can do that. But sitting down to do it, the voices would come again. Then I would sometimes think, well, nobody wants to hear that.
Mm.
Nobody wants to hear all that stuff that's happened to you. And then what happened is on my Facebook page, I would do a little storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Like the time I went to the thrift store and I saw this book. And I remembered even doing all of my abuse as a child, some kind of way, we always had good books. Always. I mean, classic children's literature. And we did not have the money for that. So the story I told on Facebook, just a few paragraphs, is how from that time to now, even through what I was going through, because I'm a person of faith, I believe God had already prepared me, even through what I've gone through. And I put that up there. I think it got like 100, it just blew up. So that was like a tiny door open. So that kind of squashed that voice that said, nobody wants to hear about that.
Mm-hmm. But you got a little blowback from that post.
I did. I did.
And we had to coach on it because some people had some things to say about the fact that you were talking about your childhood on Facebook.
Yes. There were people who were they were relatives. One of my sisters did not like, I said one sentence in there and that was blown out of proportion, but it really does just kind of encapsulates what I'm talking about.
How did your nervous system respond to like having all of that positive attention and having that negative attention?
Immediately, I thought, I went back I typed it in the beginning. I'm the one that typed my own post. So I know what I put and I know the headspace I was in when I said it. But when she pushed back, I immediately thought, oh my God, did I do that? I didn't reframe. So I'm going back. I'm like, so I'm reading all the way through. And then it started becoming clear. It was almost like clouds. Like this has nothing to do with what you typed.
Right.
This is her processing some unresolved things from our childhood. During our childhood, one of our parents played us against each other. And the narrative there was that I was the this, that, and the other, and they were not this, that, and the other. And that is what she chose to pick up on.
Yeah, which just shows us when we're conditioned that way when we're kids, we just believe those stories. It's like we take that little brain of a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old that's so open and malleable, and that's been programmed by, adults with their own dysfunction.
Exactly.
And we just keep that thinking for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Do you wonder exactly how divorced women just like you are meeting eligible men who want a real relationship and a commitment? They're doing it by dating with their core values. Your core values are the GPS that lead you to the partner you've been looking for. When you use your core values on dating apps, text messages, and at social events, you will easily connect with your true match partner without chasing, settling, or wasting time with non-committal men. I have taught exactly how to do this in the 2-hour Core Values Dating Blueprint course available on my website, shadecurry.com/dating. That's SADECURRY.com/dating. You will learn exactly how to identify your core values and use them on your dating profile, how to ask the right questions via text, and how to tell the right stories on dates so that you attract the right people and repel those who aren't right for you. If you're ready to meet your true match, hop over to shadecurry.com/dating or click the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode.
And the sad part about it is we'd had this very conversation about what I put on Facebook because we had gone walking. I have 2 sisters, and I'd said nothing in that post I had not said to them. And it was not derogatory at all. I was basically saying, my sisters don't remember reading this book, but that's okay because that was my calling. God has prepared something else for them. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and they have their particular talents and callings, and I have mine, but that's not how she picked it up. She read, my sisters don't like books, or my sisters can't read something. She read something else.
And that's exactly how our thoughts work. When we're pre-programmed, when we have preconceived notions, we go out into the world looking for exactly what we believe.
And you're going to find what you're looking for. You're going every single time, whether good or bad, you're going to find what you're looking for.
Yeah. And that's literally that's the pain of childhood trauma or relationship trauma, is that we get used to that particular flavor of misery or pain or angst or conflict. And we literally go out into the world and recreate it because that's what we're looking for.
Right.
And I know, like, when you and I talked prepping for this call, you were talking about how you're trying to get used to happiness now.
That's another reason that I went into therapy. Some major things have been happening in my life, and I did not realize that my brain is wired for the crazy. It's just, and so I don't know how to enjoy myself. I don't know how to just bask in this. I wanted to write a book, and I'm reading on my fourth, and I taught a class to a group of writers that I'm in an anthology with, and it became an Amazon bestseller. And then I started the Inner Healing Academy. And then I reached out to Hillsong, which is my favorite Christian band, to use their music in my academy, and they licensed me. I mean, this has all happened in 90 days, and I'm still sitting here like, oh, okay. What's going on?
It's learning the art of celebration and leaning into, because some of these emotions that are coming, I guess you could say, in greater volume, you have to lean into feeling them.
Right.
Because if you think about your whole life, you've been accustomed to shutting off your feelings because they were so painful.
And we don't know that when you're shutting off the painful feelings, you're also shutting off the good feelings.
Yes.
You just shut off.
You're just numb. Because I remember in my first marriage, just a lot of numbness. By the time the marriage ended, I was just like numb to everything. Nothing gave me joy. Nothing. It was like, and that's the thing. You have to open up and learn the art of letting the emotions come in, the good and the bad.
The good and the bad.
Sitting with them and processing the ones that are, in a sense, out of proportion because they're like carried and they're triggers from the past, and processing them so that you can kind of come back to a more proportional level of emotion for things that are happening in the present.
Right.
So there's that. And then when things are happening in the present, allowing for those emotions.
Exactly. And I am learning, the bigger part of my healing is that I trust myself to respond appropriately. I did not before. If I need to cry, I'm going to cry. If I'm going to be, if something warrants my anger, I'm going to be angry. But I'm not going to just, go all out with it. I trust myself to take care of me. Yeah. I trust myself to love me. I trust myself to move in the best way for me, whereas I didn't know how to do that before. I was always responding to other people's wants and needs and judgments and actions toward me. And now I've set some boundaries. I'm still doing my mirror work, my inner child healing, all of that.
Yes, that's so good. I mean, like you are right in the middle of the work. You are right in the middle of the work. And I really wanted to kind of showcase what you're doing, because a lot of times, people say, oh yeah, you got to do the work. You should heal after your divorce. And sometimes people don't know what that looks like. Right. People are just like, well, I'm healing. I'm still healing right now. And then 5 years later, it's like, it's not the time that creates the healing.
Right.
It's all of these things that you're talking about.
It's the work, and it's ugly too. It ain't pretty.
It is not. It is not pretty.
Because you know this more than anyone else, because you went above and beyond, because you even talked to my daughter. When you start that healing, oh my gosh, stuff is going to fall away. Yep. And I had like 3 or 4 or 5 different things going on at the same time. And it was so tempting just to shut it all down.
Mm-hmm.
because I was not used to all of these feelings. It was
Yeah.
so tempting to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You do. And then this is the fun part is when you truly process one feeling that you've been resisting for a long time, guess what happens after that? Then there's another feeling underneath it.
Right behind it. I mean, am I going to get a break here?
Yeah, I
Right
remember the first
behind it.
one that I processed, like after my divorce, was anger. Like that just took me a while. I was angry. And that was the first one that came out. Right. And I'm glad because I also know that not processing anger, a lot of people who are bitter and they seem really bitter and stuck in their divorce, it's that initial anger that doesn't get processed. So there was a lot of anger. And then what came right behind that was grief.
I was thinking that. I think grief was my first one.
Mm.
And I still have to get a handle on that because it's the way sometimes I think about it. I all this time I did this and all, grief is my first.
It's a big one. Divorce feels like a death in the family. And then like once I processed anger and grief, I was like, good. Like my life took off. Met my husband, started my business, like everything was great. And then I cycled back around, certain things were happening in my life and realized that anxiety was showing up in my business. So a lot of anxiety, a lot of like not feeling exposed. Right. Because when you're out there and you're putting your work out there, it's very vulnerable, putting your story out there.
It is.
And as I did that, a lot of anxiety would show up. And so I was like, oh, you know what? Let's just deal with this. Let's just face this. And the anxiety had many different ways that it showed up. And so I decided to do the work to embrace anxiety and work on that. Did the work several months, felt good, like so good. Like anxiety is like, now I don't know. I just do the things. I can feel like what would normally have been the beginning of the anxiety when I'm doing something big or I'm doing something that, would normally make me nervous. Now the one that's coming up these days is like shame. And I'm like,
really?
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness.
And it's not coming up. It's not shame that's attached to anything. It's
just shame in general.
Just the emotion itself. And I'll be like, oh, look at that.
Keep talking. I'm sorry. My battery's about to die on me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So shame comes up after the anxiety. And these days, I'm not even trying to like do anything with it. I'm like, oh, this is just an emotion that like, kind of like your thoughts float in and out. Now I've just recognized that, oh, it's just a feeling that I felt so much in my past that now
it's coming back.
It just floats in and out for no reason.
And it's amazing that you will recognize a feeling that needs to be handled and dealt with and one that you need to just float by.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's a good thing because you don't need to expend any unnecessary energy.
Right. Because then it becomes navel gazing. You're like, you're like in therapy 24/7. Some of this is just, we're just biological beings and our brain is just going to give off these chemicals.
Right.
And sometimes it might be a smell that triggers something that you remember. And you're not even thinking anything. The emotion just comes up and
it just comes in.
It can just be there.
Right. Yep. You can coexist. Sometimes you just have to coexist with it. And the real thing is knowing, again, which to address and which to just get out of the way and, let you float on by.
Yes. Yeah. And it's so freeing to be able to say, oh, I can just live my life. I'm not at the mercy of all these feelings and all these thoughts and everything that I remember. I can just they can just be there.
Right.
And I love that. It's so free. And the word that I use for it now is like, I feel unencumbered. Like I'm not weighed down by any of these things.
Yes, absolutely. I have something to share that today that happened to me. I was at work and, we have an open workspace. We have cubicles up and, the other four women, they were just standing around talking and chit chatting. And I was sitting at my desk doing my work. And then all of a sudden I started feeling like no one's talking to you. You're sitting up here working. Don't you feel left out? 2 years ago, I'd have been like, oh my gosh, they don't like me. Today I was like, no, I'm going to do my work. I'll talk to them later. So that was a thought
Yes.
that you just let go. I
Just
was
let go.
aware of it, that I was sitting there doing my work, but I wasn't in the conversation. But later on at lunch, I was in the conversation. I was the center of the
Yes.
conversation. So
And
yeah,
that just shows the level of healing because there was rejection in your childhood, your brain was sort of molded to interpret any situation that looked like you were separate from the crowd
because
as a
you're the
big deal.
outsider thing.
Yes.
Yes.
And biologically, we are wired to be a part of the tribe and a part of the group and to want belonging, but being sort of enslaved to that desire to belong at all times and to have other people constantly validate and constantly tell you that you belong and constantly act like you belong. That's exhausting.
It's exhausting. It's putting too much, I don't know what's the word, responsibility on the other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your worthiness is inside, is internal.
Yes.
Exactly.
And just being able to just sit there and be like, no, I'm just me. And I want to do this work right now. I don't have to go prove that I'm a part of the crowd. Yeah. That's so amazing. That's like such great work. So what would you say is your overall, like your healing routine currently? And I know, everyone's healing routine will change, but what are you doing like on a day-to-day basis as part of your healing?
On a day-to-day basis, as part of my healing, I am journaling. I skip a day or two every now and again. Breath work is very important to me. I was doing it in the car on the way home. I do a lot of visualization. Yes. Because sometimes I just think, I can't do it. So then I just do some breath work. I visualize myself doing what I want to do, and then I do it.
Yeah.
Boundaries is so important to me. Not just with people, but there are some things on TV I don't watch. Some news I just cannot take it because I just can't. Yeah, I can't get too full.
Then you're giving yourself stuff to process. It's like, great, I was fine. Then I watch this. Now they've given me a whole bunch of thoughts that I need to deal with.
Exactly. So day to day, the journaling, the breath work, the prayer, of course, the visualization and boundaries. I think that is the biggest thing. Those are the biggest things.
I love that. Yeah. And I mean, and the healing, everyone needs some combination. There's so many tools out there in the world, like tons and tons of tools. I know when right in the middle of my divorce, I did a lot of like physical work. Like I would get out into the sun. Like just being outside in the sun.
I love nature. Yes.
In nature was so good for me. Eating right as much as I could at the time was really good. Moving my body, dance was a big one. Getting together with girlfriends. Yeah. Like, there's just the healing power of getting together with your girlfriends.
Yes. And some of my friendships have changed too. Yeah. Yeah. For the better.
Yeah. How do you feel like, just in terms of feeling like you're deserving of good things, feeling worthy, your self-esteem now compared to a year ago?
Oh, it's day and night. I didn't know it at the time, but I was willing to accept scraps, just attention, because I needed that, because I was so outward focused.
Yeah.
And now, if it doesn't feel right, I don't need that. Anything I need, I can get for myself. Valentine's Day was Monday, I think it was. I can't even remember.
A few days ago.
As a single person, Valentine's Day is just another day, because in the relationship that I plan to be in, we're going to do that. That's just how we're going to live. It's not going to be this commercialized thing.
Yeah.
Plus, I know too many people put all them Valentine's Day on Facebook, and I know something different.
So I did a post about that today on Facebook, just as a continuation, because I was working through Valentine's Day with all of my clients, and I realized that the question of Valentine's Day is actually pretty simple. It's just love versus romance, and as long as you're not confusing the two, you'll be okay. There's love, which is trust, gentleness, mutual reciprocity, honesty, mutual care, steadiness, reliability, all the good things, all the bread and butter, meat and potatoes of a relationship, what you're going to do every single day. And everybody needs that. 100%. You have to have love. You have to have someone you can count on. That person needs to be able to count on you. And then there's romance, which is like the icing. That's
right.
Your social media pictures, like you said, your flowers and chocolates and trips and adventures and breakfast in bed and all the little extras. And the only problem happens when we mix the two.
Right.
When we say Valentine's Day is a celebration of love. No, it actually isn't. It's a celebration of romance.
All right, girl.
Right?
That's right. That's right.
And so if you have a relationship where you've got the romance but no love, that's not what you're looking for. So I put a post out today saying, listen, everybody needs love. So check your relationships for love. And then define what romance looks for you. Like, it's actually not the same for everyone.
Right.
I asked all of my clients this week what romance looked like for them. And it ranged all across the board. There were some who were like, give me all the things. Give it to me like it's in the movie, right?
Right,
and then there were the clients who were like, listen, I don't want anyone with a boombox outside my window. Like, listen, please, I don't want any of that.
Right.
They wanted more of the smaller gestures. But what we've been conditioned to feel like is like, oh, unless you have these grand gestures, your relationship doesn't have love.
Right.
That's not true.
Wow.
Two different things. Two different things.
That is amazing.
Yeah. And the people who don't recognize that get love bombed because then they think romance is love.
Honey, and the love bombing is strong out here in these streets. I'm telling you, the brothers just, I'm like, wait a minute.
I mean, somebody give them a manual? Like a book?
I don't know, but you remember how much I struggle. This is a whole other, how much I struggle with the online dating thing because I can't deal with these dudes. What? No.
You just weren't ready. Your time is coming.
I wasn't ready. But you know what? I know that my time is coming. I still remember the deep dive worksheet we did to do with your clients. I have this vision board behind me is my writing in my general life. It's in my living room. Okay. But I got one in my bedroom for the man.
For the man.
Right. And I got all the stuff up there because I need to recognize it when I see him. And it's things that are important to me.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like,
yeah, 100%.
You have to be kind. Right. You have to be 100% single. No friends with exes. Yeah. So I will recognize it when I see it. I will sense it when I'm around it.
Yeah.
So I know that still is going to happen. I'm not a believer that life is compartmentalized because I started working with you as a relationship coach, and then my work life, entrepreneur life blew up.
Yes.
So
yeah, you got a new job. Like, and that's the interesting thing. Your transformation just happened to be with your job and your business. Like, it's
exactly
night and day. And your insights.
Exactly. No man, nowhere.
Well, look at you glowing. Look at you glowing.
This was different. This was different than last year. It really was. So just doing the work. Just doing the work and walking the path, walking the step in front of you, living your life. Because you know what I told you? I'm going to meet him in Kroger because that's where I hang out. I'm going to meet him in Kroger.
Well, I have a different opinion, but I'm not the one in the relationship. So we'll see. We'll see who wins the bet of where he comes from. Pam, thank you so much for sharing your story with the listeners today. This has been so good. I think this is probably the deepest dive that I've done on the podcast into inner healing.
Oh, okay.
From someone who's like doing the work, literally doing the work. Because I try to keep a lot of it to like the dating part. It's dating after a divorce, but this is such a critical part of being able to not just date and find a partner, but like reclaim your entire life after a divorce.
Exactly.
Like, find who you are, live your best life after your divorce.
Exactly. Because this is what sank my life. The feeling of having my life, because I was walking blind and didn't know I had all these issues. I thought I was okay.
Yes. And that's, I thought I was okay in my marriage, which looking back now, I'm like, that was about as toxic as it gets.
Girl.
I was walking around in that marriage thinking I was fine, thinking like I had it together and knew exactly what I was doing.
Same.
Yeah.
Absolutely same.
The blind spots. And, it's so, I'm just so thankful that I saw the blind spots that I have, and I'm sure I still have some that I'm working on, but that's why I continue to coach. I continue to hire coaches. I continue to do the work of coaching because, it's a growth journey. I'm not I don't have, and I'm not everything that I want to be. Currently, I have a parenting coach and she's like helping me sort of adjust and transition with the fact that I have young adults, not teenagers anymore. Girl. And I was like, I don't know how to do this young adult business. Is there a manual? Is there a book? Right. And so there's so much work because I was like, well, I probably have blind spots. There are parts of it that I don't feel like it completely fits. And I don't, I know what I want and what I'm looking for, and I need some support in getting the result that I want. So that's the work that I'm doing currently. And it's I think I've worked with her for 6 months. We're going through another 6 months now, and it's the best work that I've ever done. I think I say that about every all the coaching that I do is the best work that I've ever done. So yeah, like I just thank you for sharing your journey through inner healing. Please tell the listeners again what you do, how they can find you, how they can work with you.
Excuse me, Pamela Nichols, Pamela writes. I write Christian fiction right now. They're on Amazon. I also coach writers, fiction and nonfiction, because I have 12 years in journalism for the nonfiction part. And I help writers in a variety of ways. If you have it in your head and don't know how to get to the paper, I can help you with that. And then after you get on the paper, I can help you 30 days, or I can help you for 3 months. I also have a master class that I teach. That's the one that I taught to the Amazon bestseller class. And that is the 4 pillars of effective Christian writing. I founded the Inner Healing Academy, and that is a 6-week series. We start that in January when everybody is doing their New Year's resolutions, because you're not going to change anything on the outside until you change on the inside. So that's why I do that in January. And that is where I walk you through the steps that I was shown, that I found out about myself. 6 weeks in a group session, and it's really a lot of fun. We have a good time. We just did the first one, and then after that, if you want to work one-on-one, we'll do that as well.
Absolutely. So if you resonate with Pam's work and you are looking for some inner healing, or you just connect with parts of her story that you feel like, I think I need to do something like this, or you want to write your story. And I know a lot of divorced women that I've talked to. I've talked about writing their story. If you want to write your story, Pam is the woman for you. So we're going to link up all of your links in the show notes. Okay. Thank you once again for sharing your story. It was such a joy to work with you last year.
I enjoyed it, Charlotte. I really did.
Yes,
I really did.
It was so good. And it's just been a pleasure because we're friends on Facebook, to kind of follow your story as you've continued to grow and change, and as you keep doing the work and bringing so much value to the world. So thank you for sharing your story. And for everyone listening, we want to thank you for your time and attention today, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening today. If you are ready to get married after divorce, I want to invite you to download my free 8-video training specifically designed to help divorced women date with ease and get married again. Head over to SadeCurry.com to get started. That's SadeCurry.com. I'll see you inside.